Now, there's confusion in the Democratic Republic of Congo over whether rebels have agreed to leave towns they captured in the east of the country. The M23's military leader, Colonel Makenga, reportedly said rebels would withdraw completely from Goma and Sake. But then the group's political chief gave a list of 8 demands to the government, saying they wouldn't leave until the conditions were met. He did say, however, that remaining in Goma was not their prime objective.
The major concern of the M23 is not the town of Goma. That is not our major concern. We are fighting to find solutions to the problems of the Democratic Republic. If Goma becomes a sticking point, it would make people believe that our major concern is Goma. I think the questions I raised here are national matters.
So let's take a look at where both sides stand. Quite literally right now, the rebels are in Goma and Sake on the northern side of Lake Kivu. Government troops, meanwhile, are taking up positions just south of Shasha. And thousands more of them are arriving in Minova. Well, let's bring in Peter Greste, who's in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. That's where a series of talks have been taking place over the past week in an attempt to resolve the crisis. Peter, so the rebels have put forward their own demands before they pull out of Goma. It's all pretty confusing, isn't it? I mean, what are we to make of these conflicting messages coming out of M23?
I think we're to see M23 as conflicted. I think internally there clearly seems to be some division, some disconnect between the political wing led by Jean-Marie Runiga and the military wing led by Colonel Sultani Makenga, who's been talking to the Uganda's military chiefs here in Kampala. We understand that earlier this afternoon he spoke to the French news agency AFP and told them that he still wanted to see his troops out of Goma and Sake by the end of this week. That clearly isn't the message that is coming out of Goma, as we've already heard. And I think really this does reflect the kinds of conflicting, not only the divisions within M23, but also the different pressures that are on each of these two sides of the movement. Remember that Makenga has been here in Kampala for the past 24 hours or so, and I suspect he's been under enormous pressure, not just from the Ugandans, but from all the regional states, who really want to see M23 out of Goma, and they want to see some peace negotiations continue. It's going to be very difficult to have any negotiations, particularly from the Congolese side, as long as M23 remain where they are.
Meanwhile, Peter, what's the latest with the fighting on the ground, especially with cross-border attacks, and how all of that is impacting regionally on the crisis?
Well, we understand that there was a cross-border attack. At least that's what the Rwandans are telling us, and M23. They say that another group known as FDLR attacked over the border into Rwanda. Rwanda says that it managed to kill a number of FDLR fighters and captured several others as well. We need to be very careful about how we interpret this, though. And let me give you just a brief bit of history. The FDLR is made up of the remnants of what was then known as the Interahamwe, who were the Hutu extremists who were responsible for the genocide. They fled over the border into Congo and formed this group, the FDLR. So the idea that FDLR is now attacking Rwanda is really very worrying indeed, and I think there will be a lot of diplomats who will be sweating very, very heavily about the prospect that somehow Rwanda might strike back and get involved in the conflict over the border inside Congo, because that raises all sorts of very deeply disturbing prospects of a much wider conflict that has the potential to draw in not just Rwanda but Uganda and other neighbouring states as well. And of course we remember the way that ended the last time we saw what was then known as Africa's First and Second World Wars, in which about 7 or 8 regional states were all involved in a terrible battle, which has left the country in pretty much the state that it is today.
Peter Greste in Kampala. Peter, thank you.